Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binotesha yarbitzeni, al memruchot yanachaleni, nafshi yishovei, yanacheni v'magle tzedek lema'an shemo, gam ki elech b'gitz al mavet, lo yirah ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorirai, Dishanta vashemen roshi kosiri vaya, ach tov chesed yirdifuni, ko yamei chayai v'shaveti b'veit Adonai leorach yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. On these most difficult days, when we are searching for some degree of comfort, for some solace, we often turn to the psalmists. And so I ask you now to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember Dr. Noa Noy. To you, Danny, to her daughter Tal, her mother Dina, her brother Ofer, her sisters Tamar and Yael, her sister-in-law Nira and her brother-in-law Amir, to all the members of the family, and to so many dear and cherished friends. We've all gathered together today to remember, but also to celebrate the life of your beloved Noah. We have been taught that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity, from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and from ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Noah's journey began in Israel. She was born in a small northern city, the town of Afula, in 1953. And she was one of 4 children born to Dina and Yossi Noy. Her childhood years were spent mostly in the towns of Netanya and Chofit. One of the most significant moments, though, happened in her teen years. This is when Noah met the adorable and the sweet Danny Manor. Noah was just 18 years old, and Danny only 15. You see, Noah's brother Ofer was dating Danny's sister. And while this particular courtship eventually ended, Danny was smitten with Noah. Danny, as a young lad, you met her. You were 3 years her junior. You at 15 and she at a very sophisticated 18. You looked her in the eye the first time you met her and you stated, "I'm going to marry you." Noah never took your proclamation seriously, but the two of you remained friends, your families just living 1 mile apart. And Noah then graduated from high school, where she attended in Beersheba. She matriculated to Tel Aviv University, and it was there that she studied biology. Danny, you and Noah would occasionally find time to get together, to chat, and to catch up on life. But she wasn't interested in anything more than a friendship. But a few years went by, and Danny, you were 21 years old. You had just finished your service to the Israeli Defense Force. And somewhere along the way, things changed between you and Noah. A romance blossomed, and a deep and loving partnership was nurtured. And you were married in 1979 in Chofit. We would say of Noah that she was a student of life, always studying, always learning, and always contributing to the greater good. She obtained her master's degree from Tel Aviv University in biochemistry, and then her PhD also from Tel Aviv University in geophysics and planetary sciences. In 1981, Danny, you and Noah, you moved to the United States, where she pursued her postdoc training in San Francisco and New York City. And while living in New York, Danny, then you attended Albert Einstein College of Medicine, where you earned your PhD in biochemistry. When you spoke of Noah and the big city, and keeping in mind this was a young lady from a very small town, you said that she really had this feeling for New York. She loved the beat and the rhythm and the pulse of this big city. Your Noah loved the arts and the culture that the Big Apple offered. And for the two of you, your world did revolve around study and research, but it also revolved around reading and the arts. This seemed to be the epicenter of your existence, and that is until 1985, when Tal, you entered into your parents' world, bringing a feeling of completion and comfort and inner peace to their lives. Tal, you are the one and only child. But your parents would always say, in having one child, how lucky they were that their one and only child turned out to be a masterpiece. Tal, you shared with me sweet memories of a mom who was, in her own special way, the original Energizer bunny. You said your mom just kept going and going. And you have sweet memories of being in New York City with your mom, where she would exhaust you. She could go for hours and hours through every museum. You said she had more energy than anyone you've ever met. And Tal, there's those sweet and I must say also those delicious memories of a family who enjoyed cooking together. You and your parents in the kitchen sharing delicious family traditional meals and recipes. And the warm and wonderful memories of the years where you were with your parents when they were living in Ithaca, where Mom and Dad worked diligently at Cornell University. And then finally your parents moving here in Cleveland in 2007. You remember coming to visit. And again, you remember trying to keep up with your mom's energy. When you would come to visit, you'd like to sleep in a little bit and relax, maybe catch up on some television, but your mom wouldn't have it. She would wake up early, she'd get you up, and you'd go off on adventures. You'd visit every place, any place. She just wanted to go, go, go. Noah, she was also a mom who was so supportive of your dreams and your aspirations. And I asked you, Tal, I said, coming from these parents, are you yourself involved in the sciences and in research? And you laughed and said, oh, no. But my parents warned me that if I didn't go into science, I shouldn't expect them to be able to help me with any homework. That was the deal you had. You saw your mom as a woman who was strong, and she was driven. And this was a great example for you. Your mom was also supportive of organizations like NOW and Planned Parenthood. And just 1 month ago, Tal, you knew that your mom was out there canvassing for the candidate of her choice for Hillary Clinton. And Danny, you were with your beloved every step of the way, through all of her degrees and her accomplishments, through her research, whether in pharmacology or cancer research, through her experiences as an educator, a professor of cellular and molecular medicine. Danny, you truly understood her drive, her intensity, her dedication. You said that most of her waking hours were actually spent researching in the lab. But Danny, you also knew her softer side, the moments when you and Noah and Tal could just be together. The moments in the kitchen cooking together, the moments when you'd go camping together, the times when you could enjoy going with Noah to hear the symphony or visit a museum, the times when you saw Noah being able to relax listening to NPR or reading a favorite book. She was an avid reader. And Danny, you loved her perseverance of knowledge and research. You also adored her fun side. You described her as a woman who was fun and funny. She was quick-witted. And outside of her workplace, she could be very light-spirited and quite outgoing. Danny and Tal, you knew so well a woman who was a fighter. She was a survivor. 8 years ago, she battled and survived breast cancer. And a year and a half ago, she was diagnosed with yet another cancer. But through these health challenges, she never stopped. She never stopped. And up until just a few weeks ago, Noah never missed one day of work. The Hebrew name, Noah, it's become a very popular name these days for young ladies in Israel and in this country. And its meaning is described as movement or motion. And Noa Noy, throughout her entire life, it seems that she was in constant motion, always moving to make our world a better place, always in motion to make life better for her family, for you, Tal, and of course for her beloved Danny. And the name Noah, as I looked further, I found that it's also a Japanese name, and it means my love, my affection. And your Noah had great love and great affection for so many. And so many people who are here today and those I'm sure who could not make it, but so many felt and demonstrated a great love for her as she gave to them great love and great affection. And so today, with heavy hearts, we join together as we pray that the memory of Dr. Noa Noy and the good deeds that she performed in the land of the living, we hope that all of these memories will be our blessing. Amen. There are a number of colleagues and friends who have words in their heart that they wish to share with all of us today. I'd like to first call on Dr. Nate Berger.
Noah's gone. My sincere sympathy to Danny and to Tali and to all those who have gathered here today to memorialize her life. Noah was an impressive scientist. Noah was a terrific teacher. Noah was an awesome colleague, and she was a good friend. I can hardly believe that I'm standing here using "was" to describe some of her fantastic attributes. But Noah's gone. Yet her legacy lives on in the hearts and the minds of her family and her friends here and in Israel and in the broad scientific community across the nation and around the world. I first got to know Noah and Danny about 7 years ago, shortly after their recruitment from New York to Case Western Reserve University. Noah began to participate in our regular monthly transdisciplinary conferences on energy balance and cancer. Once she started attending, Noah almost never missed a meeting, and you certainly knew she was there. She always asked profound, focused, and perceptive questions. Her questions always initiated important discussions that frequently provided ideas for investigators for both the audience and the speakers themselves. After a number of the conferences, sometimes the guest speakers would come up and say, "Who's that lady over there with the tousled hair and the deep laugh who keeps asking all these questions?" And I say, "Oh, you mean Dr. Noy?" And they say, "What is she, an Israeli or a New Yorker?" I mean, she had those certain characteristics. About 2 years ago, Noah, Lee, and I discovered a convergence in our research. And ever since, we've been meeting every few weeks to work together, to plan, to write. In addition to her wisdom, Noah always brought her dry humor, her deep laugh, her radiance, which I think is best described by the Hebrew words aheret, if I got that right. We wrote and published a manuscript together. We wrote and submitted 2 collaborative NIH grant proposals. Noah and her lab have been extremely generous hosts and mentors to help some of my students learn new techniques. Most recently, Noah wrote a chapter on RBP4, it's retinal binding protein 4, which is her main focus in diabetes and cancer, for a book on adipocytokines in cancer that Ofer Reizes and I are co-editing. Incidentally, our relation with Noah and the development of this new book is a great example of the new spirit of collaboration between scientists at the Cleveland Clinic and the Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. But more importantly, Noah's chapter for the book, which was just turned in about a month ago, was perfect. It needed no revision, and in retrospect, it probably projects her future research blueprints. In addition to being a scientist, Noah was a strong feminist. And I have to tell you Noah's story about her name, which is a little bit different from yours. About a month ago, Noah was in my office, and somehow we were talking about the origin of names. And when I suggested that her name Noah, which in English is N-O-A, was the feminine version of the biblical name Noah, N-O-A-H, she became irate. She let me know in no uncertain terms that her name was not derived from any man's names, that it was an original feminine biblical name, and that even more important, she told me that Noah was one of the first women in the Bible to hold title to real estate. And as the parable goes, and she made sure that she told it to me, and she gave me chapter and verse, which I checked out and confirmed. So as the parable goes, Noah and her 4 sisters, this is the biblical Noah, together with their father, were part of the Israelites during the Exodus from Egypt. And as they approached Israel, it became clear that the father would not survive to make it. And since he had no sons, the land that was promised to him would revert back to the tribe. But Noah and her sisters boldly approached Moses in front of the multitude of the Israelites and confirmed with Moses to grant the land to Noah and her sisters. And so Noah, the biblical Noah, was the first woman in the Bible who held title to real estate in Israel. And that probably really characterized, that story in the Bible, I think, really characterized Noah's assertiveness and her expectations. And she was very proud to be named after this first woman to hold real estate in the land of Israel. So why am I telling you about all these interactions with Noah? What do you care about RBP for? Because throughout this entire past year, with all the meetings and the research and the writing that was going on, Noah was her usual hardworking, vibrant, engaging, and highly productive self. There was absolutely no indication until just a couple weeks ago that she was battling a life-threatening disease. There were never any delays or excuses in getting her parts of the work done. She was a driven, hardworking scientist. She was a delight to work with. Together with Danny, she did an amazing job of carrying on through this adversity for the benefits of science and to make sure all of her research personnel were provided for and launched on their appropriate trajectories. What incredible strength. What amazing courage for both Noah and Danny to show. Witnessing Noah's passing with strength and courage and dedication, you can't help making each of us ask, what would you do if you knew you had only 1 year to go? What would you do if you had only 1 month? So in some of the old John Wayne type American Western movies, the hero's metaphorically exit was to go out with their pistols blazing and with their boots on. Noah did exactly the scientific equivalent. She left us doing the research she loved to do and was driven to do, and she, remarkable for these days, she left while she was still funded. We will miss her leadership and her guidance. We will always remember her courage and friendship. Her legacy remains as a challenge to us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Berger. I'd like to now call on Dr. Ruth Carey.
Yes, I am short. When Danny asked if anyone wished to say a few words at this service, I immediately thought I would be honored to do so. There was so much that I wanted to say, to tell you how important Noah was to me and to the other members of the Department of Pharmacology. I began by thinking about describing her many accomplishments in her career and realized that most of you already know those things. In addition to her career, she was a devoted teacher and a renowned investigator. But this is not what made her special to me or to us as a whole. I also thought about talking about how unfair it is that this lovely woman had to suffer from cancer twice. But truthfully, cancer is never fair. Her battle with this disease should, however, reinforce what should be the goals of all cancer researchers, which is to eradicate this disease and lessen suffering from it. And her passing has certainly done this for me as a breast cancer researcher and reflects her own interest in solving cancer's mysteries. In the end, I thought I would tell you about how Noa specifically touched my life. She was an outstanding role model for me, being a successful woman scientist who held strong to her convictions and was focused on discovery. Her entry into pharmacology was at the dawn of a new phase of growth for the department, and she brought such enthusiasm for her work and was an exceptional mentor to me and to others, in particular junior faculty and most importantly to students. Noa was an outspoken advocate for others and genuinely concerned for their success. She and I worked together on several projects to enhance the atmosphere of women in science. As you've heard previously, she was quite a supporter of women. We also had many discussions about doing the right thing for mentees, even when it was difficult. She told me a story once about a student in her lab that she felt wasn't making it, and she encouraged the student to leave the graduate program. Just a few years later, the student wrote to Noa and thanked her for starting her on a new path. The student realized after leaving the lab that research wasn't her calling, and she thanked Noa for her honesty and for her support. I learned from this story that we need to help our trainees become who they were meant to be and not what we perceive that they should be. Most importantly, I found Noa's love for science to be contagious, and I will always remember when she received the Flora Stone Mather Center for Women's Spotlight Prize for Excellence in Research. She held her hands up like this, and she said she loved talking about knowing one piece of information here and another piece of information here and bringing the two together. And I will always remember that gesture because that was really how she felt. She loved making new discoveries. I can honestly say that Noa was driven every single day that I knew her by this thirst for innovation and breakthroughs. And I thank her for sharing that excitement. And while she did indeed further our knowledge, she did so much more than that. She helped us find a path to become fulfilled. She will be forever in my heart and in the hearts of the members of pharmacology. And while we will miss her, we will be thankful for the time that she shared with us.
Thank you, Dr. Carey. I would like to call on one of Noa's students, Josh Miller.
Sorry, I had the opposite problem. I'm super tall. Good afternoon. I'm Josh, and as a lab, we wanted somebody that would be controlled who could give this speech, and funny enough, I kind of lost it a few minutes ago. But we just wanted to share some of the great memories and things that we wanted to convey to everyone about Noa. And so all of us in the lab came to know Noa because we wanted to join her lab. We saw her research and we saw how interesting and innovative it was. Though we came from different backgrounds and stages in our careers, we were drawn to her because she had so much knowledge from so many different areas. Noa was well known for being one of the world's experts in vitamin A biology. And we knew that by joining her lab that we could be trained in a number of different areas, from biochemistry and biophysics to cell and molecular biology, and even in vivo physiology. It was always Noa's intention that our research would help us find ways to treat people and cure disease. Being mentored by Noa meant having an advisor that would advise us in every aspect of our lives. As students, she worked endlessly to ensure that we were putting forth our best work in the lab, although she often made fun of us and wondered why we needed to leave the lab to go to class. As postdocs, she pushed us to think about our careers and not waste our time on administrative stuff. She spoiled us with projects that were interesting and catered to our strengths. Noa acknowledged the difficulty of this business, but kept encouraging and motivating us not to give up. And most importantly, her door was always open. Noah was especially good at what our lab likes to call life coaching, which for her ranged from giving us tips on phone etiquette to proper nail length for pipetting, reminding us the importance of Planned Parenthood, and warning us that it's bad luck to toast with water when you could have Pinot Grigio. She had a great sense of humor. And Noah was someone that was known for being straight to the point. And she would always tell you the truth. Shaking hands here. She would always tell the truth straight to our face, and she expected us to do the same. She cared about everything and everyone. She cared about us, her plants, the poor mices, and she didn't hesitate to help a stranger. Her daughter was the center of her world, and her face would always light up when she talked about Tully. We knew it was a special weekend when it was the middle of the day on a Friday. She would walk into the lab and she'd say, "My baby's in town. I need to go play." We are so privileged to have been mentored by Noa. She held us to the highest standards. She's truly an inspiration, and we will take what we've learned and continue her legacy. On one of many Thanksgivings, Noa invited the members of the lab to come to her house. Before eating, she asked everyone to go around the table and say what they were thankful for. When it was Noa's turn, she said that she was grateful for science. And if there was anything that we could tell her, just one last thing, we would just like to say, Noa, thank you for everything.
And thank you, Josh, for sharing those words on behalf of you and the members of your lab. I'd also like to call on Dr. Ofer Reises.
Wow, this is tough. So, Noa was a colleague, but she was a good friend. And while I only had a short period of my life that I interacted with her, it's tough to just sum up that friendship and the mentorship that she provided. And I would be remiss in not saying that this is I'm also speaking on behalf of my good colleague Justin Lathia, who's here, because over the past few years, we've collaborated and worked closely on multiple projects of joint interest as a team, and I truly believe we were a team. We also had the opportunity to become good friends, and essentially we got that opportunity during multiple dinner faculty recruitment meetings over the last couple of years. Often we dined at L'Albatros, so thanks Stan Hazen for funding that and building that friendship. And our collaboration started while Noa was still a case. And we met on multiple cancer center events, and including what Dr. Berger mentioned, the Trek retreats. And we ended up being lucky enough, and I emphasize lucky enough, to recruit her to the Cleveland Clinic in 2014. While the recruitment was not necessarily intention, perhaps the subtle, constant reminders and drop-offs of the recruitment ads on her desk whenever we came to visit her finally broke through. As luck would have it, she agreed to move to the LRI, and her office was 2 doors from mine. And I usually get in fairly early, so when Noa came by, there was always a smile. She always walked by my office. There was always a hello. But that doesn't sum it up. What sums it up is usually she would stop and say, "So I was thinking about," and whatever it was, I was thinking about your project. I was thinking about, something that we could do together. And she essentially dropped her stuff 2 doors down, right? She didn't go to her office. She stopped in, dropped her stuff, and started talking. And this could go on for presumably hours, but it didn't. And it didn't because the phone would ring, not mine, her phone, and it was Tali on the other side. And everything ended. She moved on. And I think that says a lot about Noa, because while she was so passionate about her science, her love of her family was ever present, and that it just is part of her. Justin and I also had the pleasure of working with Noa during our joint lab meetings that started multiple years back. But as she joined our department, knowing what Noa was interested in and the work that she was doing, we recruited her to participate, and her lab, of course, to participate in our joint lab meetings. Now, you have to take into account the lab meetings start fairly early, especially at least in the beginning for Noa. And so, and Justin comes in at an ungodly time. I think 5, I believe, something like that. I get in around 7. So 8 o'clock meetings were no big deal. But Noa was like, 8 o'clock? And so, and as a typical Israeli, she had to haggle with us. There was no, and so, as luck would have it, she agreed to 8:05. And 8:05, she would show up. 8:04, she was never there. 8:05, she'd walk around the corner, and there she was. And I would say we were truly blessed to have that interaction, because she added, much like what my colleagues have already spoken about, she added that depth. Much like what Ruth said, she liked these connections, and she liked to put them together. And that's what she drove in our lab meetings. And I think some of our colleagues in the lab have been frustrated because it ended up being, oh, what do you mean I've got more experiments to do? I thought I'm done. So we'd like to end, though, on a really important point, and it sums, in my opinion, Noa. And it's that we all develop an interest in science just due to natural inquisition and wonder. And through our training, all the trials and tribulations, the manuscripts and the multiple times we have to submit and resubmit, and the grants, of course, we may forget these reasons. However, we're lucky enough to have colleagues who remind us of the joy of science. And I would say Noa was that. And she had that passion. And that's just, it's a reminder. Every time we went and we met together, it was a reminder how important. So she was, all I can say, a great colleague, a great mentor, and a friend, and we will miss her.
Thank you, Dr. Isis. I'd also like to call on one more colleague, Dr. Donna Driscoll.
So in 2008, I gave a seminar at Case Western. I got the usual boring kind of questions that you normally do. And then in the back, I noticed this woman, and she was doing this, right? She had all this hair. And she said, I'm wondering if you've considered a different explanation for your results. And she was right. She was absolutely right. And I remember thinking that I should find out who this amazing person is, because I really did love her hair. But I never got around to it. And I wish I had, because I didn't see her again for another 6 years, because she didn't move over to the clinic until 2 years ago. When I was thinking of what I wanted to say today, I realized it's really the small stuff, the day-to-day things that define who someone is. My son said to me this morning, there's no way you can do this in 5 minutes, okay? So I'm going to try. She had so many gifts, it was almost unfair, but you couldn't be jealous because she was so wonderful. She was passionate, smart, creative, tough, definitely tough. She was energetic, insightful, generous, kind, and she was just so much fun to be around. She had a clarity of thinking that's rare and a little bit scary. I used to give her my grants to read, hoping that my ideas were Noa-proof, but sadly they never were. But her comments never came across as criticism or one-upmanship. Instead, you felt like she was trying to shine a light on your problem so that you could see things more clearly. So as much as Noa adored science, she loved her family even more. And by family, I mean not only Danny and Tally, but you guys, the lab in the back, and you know that. She bragged a lot about you, and sometimes it was kind of annoying. It was a little too much. I'd walk by her office, and she'd do this, which was the signal for, I have something good to tell you. So I'd go in, and it was usually news about Tally or the lab, sometimes Danny, occasionally the cats. You were above the cats, okay? But more often than not, it was about her daughter. So Tally, I've told you a lot of stories the last week about your mom, but this one I haven't told you. So when I first met her, she kept talking about my baby, right? My baby this, my baby that, my baby can't sleep, my baby likes juice. So for a long time, I actually thought you were a toddler. Then I thought, my baby lives in DC, okay? But when the baby was working for the Treasury Department, I'm thinking, I might have to reevaluate this, okay? So eventually I figured out that you're a beautiful, talented, and accomplished young woman, okay? Your mom was so proud of you, but you're gonna be her baby. That's it, you can't do anything about that. Noa and I shared so many stories about what we called our families at work and our families at home. But her stories, I have to admit, they were always better. So one time I showed her a picture of my 2 boys with our dog. It's a really nice picture. She came back the next week with a picture of Tally with the dog. But the dog was Bo Obama. She was at the White House. She was with the first dogs. She was pretty pleased with that one. So what else can I tell you about Noa? She had, I guess, what you might call opinions. She was definitely stubborn, right? Okay, we all know that. She was an intensely private person, and she didn't really want to bother people with this, what she thought of as this pesky fact that she had cancer. So she needed to get a wig, and I thought it looked really great, but she was worried that people would notice and think she was sick. So I said, I will shave my head in solidarity. And instead she said, can you paint your fingernails green? I'm thinking that seemed like a strange request. I thought it was because she thought I wouldn't look good bald, which is probably true. But it turns out she had a plan. The next day we walked around the department together. Noa in her wig, she was twirling her hair like she always did. I had my green fingernails. And we got so many comments, but they were all the same. Wow, that is a weird choice of nail polish color for Donna. So her plan worked. Everyone was distracted. No one noticed the wig. But as Noa said afterwards, her plan only worked because no one perceives me as a trendy woman that would wear a green nail polish. So what struck me over the last few days was how many people told me Noa was my favorite person. I heard that over and over and over again, from secretaries to students to department chairs, from the cleaning people. The sentiment was so genuine and it was so heartfelt, but it was kind of a rude awakening for me because I always thought that I was everybody's favorite person. So I'm saying today I'm letting that idea go. She wins. So I told Noa several times that she was the bravest person I ever met, and she would always go, pff. You know how she did that? Pff. She did that. I do it all the time now. Pff. Since I met her, my sister said, you're Irish Catholic, you're not Israeli, stop. Okay? So I told her she was brave, and she's like, it's nothing. Pff. But she had enormous courage, we all know that now. And I have to tell you, Noa on chemo is 10 times better than the rest of us on a regular day. She was a force of nature, and it just seems inconceivable to me that she's not here. I was trying to decide what she would think about today, whether she'd love it or hate it. I'm thinking both, maybe. I think she'd be surprised and pleased to see she touched so many lives, but then she'd probably get really annoyed by all the attention. She'd say, Donna, why are you wearing a dress? And she'd tell the rest of us to get back to work and to do some serious science that matters. I loved her dearly, and I'll miss her more than I can say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Driscoll, and thanks to all of you who have shared words. Emily Cornelius is a dear friend of the families and a neighbor to Noa and Danny, and she's also an accomplished violinist. And there was a favorite piece of Noa's that Emily would play. It's known as the Appalachia Waltz by Mark O'Connor, and she's going to share this moment of music for us in memory of her friend. Thank you, Emily.
So a few words. First of all, thank you. I feel honored that you know, we don't have any family in this country, and except for Tali. And Noah being very private as a person, you know, we kind of did the science thing and a couple of hours at home and that's it. But I do feel that over these past years in Cleveland, we really, all of you have become, or most of you have become a good part of our family, and I'm very grateful for that, and especially so during the past month or so. So, Donna, I can't begin to say. I mean, you are family. Charlie and Susan, the same. Okay, thank you. What I thought I would say a few words is really to Noah's trainees, present and past. And the two things I can think of. One is we've heard here wonderful things about Noah, and they're all true. But, you know, if I can think of one sentence that I've heard more times in my life from Noah than anything else is, and that's at home or at work, is that, excuse me, can we look at the data, please? And so I want you to not deny the other part of Noah. She was impatient. She was somewhat aggressive. She was extremely demanding. She was bored very easily. And if she thought something, it can be this small about you or more than that about your work, you would definitely know it.
That goes for me too.
And I think it's important that you remember these things because it's really who she is and it's part of how wonderful she has been. So that's one thing. The other thing is, again, for the students and postdoc, you know, so we're here today. We're going to go, those of you who wish will come with us to the burial at the cemetery, if you feel like it. Then you go home and you cry some more, or you yell and scream and have a drink and, I don't know, do what you think. But then what, right? And so this will sound disjointed, but there's a point to this. Some 2 years ago, there was this really terrible movie that came out called Armageddon. And I have a...
It's like 15 years ago. Just saying.
And I have a thing about bad movies. They're so bad that they're good, right? And so, fine. Noah agreed to watch it with me. And the movie is about this giant meteor that's about to hit Earth. And Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck and I don't know who else are going to go up in the spaceship and dig a hole in this meteor and put explosive and blow it up, and that will save humanity. And there's a scene there that they're about to go to the ship, and Bruce Willis, you know, says goodbye to his daughter, and she says, "Daddy, please don't go." And he looks at her and says, "Baby, I got a hole to dig." Okay? So that was that, right? So back to about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Noah was already quite ill. And it was after somewhat of a rough weekend. And it's Monday morning, it's 6 o'clock. And at that point, I would drive her wherever she wanted to go, okay? And I open my eyes, and she's up and about. This was after a rough weekend. a harsh chemo on Friday, and not easy, anyhow. And she's all dressed up, and I said, no, what are you doing? And she says, well, I got this meeting with Ofer and Justin at 8. And I say, no, you can't do this. You know, you got to take care of yourself. And she looks at me and says, baby, I got a hole today. So, you know, take what you may from this. I think her resilience and her stamina, I mean, are inspirational. The way she handled the cancer, sort of 10 days ago, Noah was in the hospital, and we came to the point where there was obviously very little that can be done. And so we have this big meeting in her room, and we were fortunate to have as her physician, Neil Maropol, throughout this awful time. And so Neil comes in and sits, and there's, you know, he travels with a motorcade, right? So there's like 15, you know, residents and fellows, and really a terrific crew. And he sits down to have this conversation, right? As per her request. What's it going to be? What's going to happen? What it's going to be like? And he starts telling her about the most recent finding from the tests and the meaning. And she says, okay, you know, I get it. So tell me. You're telling me I don't have a whole lot of time, right? And he says, that's right. He says, okay, I don't know what that means. I have papers and I have grant proposals. Help me pick. What comes first? And so he starts talking to her about that. And then she asks him about exactly what is going to happen in the coming weeks. And after about 15 minutes, this is, if you don't know, Dr. Maropol is the chief of hematology oncology at the Seidman Cancer Center. Very experienced oncologist, a tough guy. And he just says, Noah, you're just exhausting me. I can't take this. So I think for you guys, you know, that's what you should remember. I mean, you should take a piece from that, and you'll be fine. You know, I've spoken with her about every single one of you, and she had absolute faith that you're going to be good and well and successful. So take it from that. You want to say something?
Just one story about my mom. Whenever we would go to the supermarket, there was an especially slow checkout clerk. She would say, he will never work in the lab. And every once in a while, we'd get like a really good one, and she'd be like, I guess he could work in the lab. So I guess my point is that she could be hard on people. She had very high expectations. But for everyone that worked with her, you met those expectations and exceeded them. And she was only hard on people that she actually thought were worth it. So thank you all for coming. And yeah, that's it.
Following our service here, we will continue to the Lakeview Cemetery. The family has alerted me that anyone wishing to make a contribution in memory of Noah, that you might consider the Seidman Cancer Center or the Susan G. Komen Foundation. At this time we rise. If you are able, please rise for the El Maleh Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Maleh Rachamim, shochen במרומים, עמסי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת נועה, שהלכה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אהנה בל הרחמים אסתירך, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותתרור בתרורך את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect peace and perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Noa Noy, who has now gone to her eternal home, may her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we say, Amen.